How are you feeling today? There is a truth that most people never realize. People with depression sometimes see reality more clearly than all of us, not because they are stronger, not because they are wiser, but because when pain reaches its deepest point, the human mind is forced to become clear in a brutal way. And if you've ever lived through nights when you couldn't breathe, ever walked through life feeling like you were standing outside looking in, then you'll understand. Depression is not just a wound. It is also a kind of intelligence that no one says out loud. If you are brave enough, continue reading this part, because the truth that is about to appear is both beautiful and painful, but it will change the way you see yourself. When people imagine depression, they often think of a drained soul, an exhausted body, and a pair of empty eyes staring at the floor. But those who have silently walked through that darkness know something else is happening inside, subtler, quieter, and far more powerful than people think. Depression does not just make you tired, it makes you awake in a very particular way, not the clarity of cheerful logic, brightness, or excitement, but a stripped down kind of awakening, a way of seeing where all the painted layers of life suddenly disappear, revealing the roughest part of truth, things you once ignored, soothed yourself about, or sugar-coated just to breathe, now become strangely clear. You see the falseness in conversations you used to smile along with. You see relationships that look stable from the outside, but have been rotting on the inside for a long time. You see your habits, your fears, the things you used to hide behind work, busyness, laughter, all appearing like a giant crack you can no longer look away from. It's not that you've become negative. It's not that you're irritated with life. You simply no longer have the strength to carry the illusions that ordinary people rely on to keep going. When hope is pulled out of the picture, your eyes are forced to look at its real outlines. And the real outlines of life are sometimes very sharp, sharp enough to make most people turn away. But you cannot turn away. Something in the pain makes you look straight at it, as if your whole mind is whispering, "Stop running." The strange thing is that when you face raw truth like that, the mind does not weaken. It becomes sharper, still, precise. You begin analyzing things you once sensed only vaguely. You begin understanding things you once only felt but could never name. You begin seeing the logic beneath the chaos that others never notice. Not because you want to, but because there is no other way to keep existing. It is a rare moment when pain and intelligence meet, a place of intersection where outsiders see only exhaustion, but the one inside is seeing the truth more clearly than ever. And it is in that place that awakening begins to form quietly, silently, deeply, and sharp as the first ray of light cutting through a dark room. What surprises many people is that this clarity is not just a personal feeling. Psychology has tried to explain why, on the most exhausting days, humans see life sharper, truer, and more accurately. They gave this phenomenon a gentle name, but behind it lies a truth that is not easy to face: depressive realism. It is not a compliment, nor is it romanticizing pain. It is simply an observation of how the brain functions when the usual rose-tinted filters are removed from the eyes. In normal life, we constantly use hope, optimism, belief, and countless benign illusions to keep the mind stable. The illusion that we control more than we do. The illusion that bad things will not happen to us. The illusion that things will get better just because we want them to. These illusions are not bad. They help humans survive, overcome challenges, and keep moving forward. But when you fall into depression, all those soft curtains disappear, And when nothing is shielding you, you see a part of reality that others do not see, a part they sometimes do not want to see. Researchers once conducted a simple experiment that revealed this very clearly. They asked participants to evaluate how much control they had in a seemingly harmless situation. A button and a light bulb switching on and off randomly. Normal people usually believed they had influence. They thought they had controlled the light, even though everything was purely random. But people with depressive tendencies saw it very accurately. They had no control at all, no exaggeration, no sugarcoating, no self-illusion. They simply saw the truth exactly as it was happening. And there is something hard to say out loud, but deeply understood by anyone who has walked through that darkness. When you no longer have the strength to believe in what is comforting, you are forced to believe in what is true. Sometimes what is true is harsh, but it is real. And that truth, sharp or cold, becomes the only psychological anchor during a period when everything else is trembling. It's not that depressed people want to see the dark side. They simply have nothing shielding them from it. And in that nakedness, logic begins to speak. No one is more clear-minded than someone who has just gone through loss. No one sees life more truthfully than someone who has just lost what mattered most. It could be a relationship you once thought would last forever, an opportunity you spent your youth chasing, a dream that seemed solid but suddenly collapsed without warning one day. Or sometimes, it is the version of yourself you once believed in. Loss disrupts the world around you. Everything familiar becomes foreign. Things you once believed were obvious suddenly lose their weight. And the only thing left is the question, what is really happening to me? When the heart hurts deeply enough, the brain stops using comfort or hope to keep you standing. It must switch to another mechanism, protecting you with logic. It begins cutting away the unnecessary. Less dreaming, less illusion, less coloring life. It shrinks the world down to only the essentials. Who is real? What matters? What is causing the hurt? What decayed long ago? What should be let go? What is worth keeping? This shrinking is not negativity. It is survival instinct. When hope can no longer function, the brain is forced to use logic as the new foundation. And in that moment, something strange happens. You begin seeing clearly what you once sensed only faintly. The small details in relationships, the warning signs before collapse that you previously ignored, the weaknesses within yourself that you always avoided. The old beliefs were built more on fear than on truth. It is not by accident that people grow up after crises. It is because pain forces the mind to rearrange the entire world. When everything has been thrown onto the floor, you cannot put it back together the same way. You must look at each piece, each crack, each reason it broke, and in that process, logic sharpens naturally. Not to judge anyone, not to become cold, but so you can survive in a world where all your previous anchors have fallen apart. That sharpness is not a gift. It is the consequence of losing too much. But from those cracks, a new kind of understanding begins to sprout slowly, quietly, but so clear that it becomes impossible to deny. There is something many people never understand. Depressed individuals do not sit and think too much because they want to. They think too much because they cannot do otherwise. When the mind is drowning in pain, every escape door closes. You can no longer run to joy just to forget for a moment. You no longer have the energy to distract yourself with work or entertainment. You have nowhere left to hide from yourself. And when you cannot run, the brain is forced to dig deeper. In psychology, this phenomenon is called analytical rumination, a form of prolonged, repetitive thinking, but but highly analytical, as if the brain is trying to take your life apart piece by piece to find out what exactly went wrong. Where is the cause? Why does it hurt this much? Is there any way out? This is not weakness. This is survival instinct. When you no longer have hope to hold on to or joy to cling to, the mind has only one option left: to understand at all costs. It begins analyzing every small detail you once overlooked: the looks, the words, the moments that seemed harmless but were actually revealing something significant. You begin seeing recurring patterns in your life: the types of people you repeatedly meet, the mistakes you repeatedly make, the old wounds that keep reappearing in new disguises. It is as if the mind is holding a flashlight, illuminating corners you normally refuse to look at. And in that sharp, cold light, everything becomes clearer than ever. You see the reasons behind the collapses. You recognize the motivations you once blamed on fate, but were actually choices. You understand why you keep repeating the same pain in different forms. This analysis sometimes exhausts you, but it is also what makes you grow faster than any event could. Outsiders only see the silence. They do not know that inside you is a storm of endless questions. They cannot hear the sharp analysis unfolding in every breath. And even though the process hurts, it is what allows you to see life more clearly than at any other time. Not because you want to be smarter, but because pain gives you no other option but to understand. There is something few people tell you. Humans do not think with the mind alone. We think with emotions first: joy, excitement, expectation, motivation. All of these are silent signals that guide how we see life. But when depression comes, those signals fade. One day, you suddenly realize that the things that once made you happy now create no movement at all inside you. A movie you once loved, a coffee shop you visited endlessly without getting tired of it, a compliment that used to make you smile for hours. All of them become flat, like still water without a ripple. That is not numbness. It is the dopamine system stepping back. Dopamine is what gives life its color. When it decreases, everything turns gray, not because life has changed, but because your joy filter has turned off. And when emotions can no longer guide you, the brain is forced to rely on another mechanism: pure reason. Many studies show that in a depressive state, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for analysis, planning, and evaluating consequences, becomes more active than usual. This is why you suddenly think deeper, clearer, and even colder. Not because you want to become emotionless, but because the brain is adjusting to survive when the emotional energy supply has been drained. In the absence of positive emotions, you are no longer rose-tinted by excitement or expectation. You are no longer blinded by fleeting joy. You are left only with reality raw, undecorated, without any gentle coating to make it easier to look at. Many people are surprised to find themselves in depression, suddenly becoming clearer than ever. They see the true motives of people. They realize words they once thought were sincere are now just social habits. They distinguish clearly between real emotions and exaggeration. They carefully weigh every decision, every risk, every possibility they had never noticed before. And the strange thing is this: the fewer emotions you have, the more you see the essence. Not because reason is better than emotion, but because when emotion turns off, everything you see becomes brutally truthful. That clarity many people cannot bear, but those who have been through depression know. Sometimes it is exactly that cold clarity that is the only thing keeping you standing in the chaos. At some level, the brain is telling you, temporary joy cannot guide us right now. To keep living, we must look straight at the truth. And sometimes That is the first time in your life you see the world with your own eyes, no more, no less. There are phases in life when you suddenly find yourself drawn toward things that once felt distant. Philosophy, acceptance, impermanence, the meaning of life, and existential loneliness. Not because you want to become profound, but because the mind is searching for a language to express what you are going through, something too vast, too heavy, too hollow for emotions to articulate. During depressive days, words that once felt abstract suddenly become frighteningly relatable. The words of the Stoics are no longer dry philosophy. Suffering is unavoidable. What we can control is only our own response. It feels like a perfect description of your life at this moment. The writings of Kierkegaard or Sartre are no longer theories on paper. They feel like a case file, documenting your inner world, the confusion about meaning, the feeling of being lost in life, the sadness you cannot name, the solitude even among familiar people. When joy withdraws, you begin hearing sounds once covered by laughter and distraction. You hear your own sighs. You hear the imbalance in relationships you once thought were solid. You hear the soft cracking of trust, of hope, of things you believed would never change. And right in that vast quiet, philosophy appears not as knowledge, but as empathy. You do not read to know. You read to find a reasonable explanation for the feeling that is eating you from the inside. You search for a line that makes you feel, ah, so someone has hurt like me. Ah, so I'm not crazy. Ah, so this emptiness has a name, a shape, and a history. You may have seen this in yourself. When your spirit falls to its lowest, you reach for the highest thoughts, as if the mind is grasping for an anchor that emotion can no longer provide. It is no coincidence that many people in depression begin caring about existentialism, impermanence, the nature of happiness, or the fragility of life. Because they have already lived through the surface of life, now they are standing at the door of the inside. That is where every question becomes serious. Who am I when everything I relied on is gone? Why am I hurting? What truly has meaning in all of this? And strangely, while the world thinks you are weakening, you are digging into a depth of understanding that very few dare to enter. Philosophy cannot cure sadness, but it gives you a language so you do not get lost in it. It does not dispel the darkness, but it places a chair in the middle of the darkness, so you can sit down and for the first time, truly look at yourself. The irony of the days you see life more clearly is this, that clarity does not always bring relief. Sometimes it becomes a burden that is hard to describe. When you see the essence of everything, you also see all the risks behind them. A beautiful relationship can fall apart. A stable job can disappear. A promising future can be derailed by a single wrong turn. A promise may never be kept. A person can change at any moment. The sharpness of your analysis makes you see possibilities others do not think about. They stay optimistic because they do not look deeply. You cannot be like them. Every choice you consider carries 10 possible outcomes. Every time you begin something new, your mind automatically lists countless events that could destroy it. Every step you try to take is blocked by your awareness of everything that could go wrong. It is not that you are pessimistic. You simply see the whole picture, both the bright part and the collapsing part. And that very foresight makes action difficult. Others can jump into a relationship just because they feel like it. You need time to consider every layer of meaning. Others can make decisions based on temporary emotion. You must walk through a maze of analysis before daring to lift a hand. Others can try and fail. You see too many prices to pay. When the mind becomes too sharp, the heart begins to slow. You become more cautious, more reserved, more hesitant, as if every step could activate a trap you already saw beforehand. There are days you know what you want, but you also see 10 reasons why it may not succeed, and the gap between want and what if keeps you still. Paralysis does not come from weakness. It comes from knowing too much. When you see clearly the mechanisms of all pain, you begin to fear it. When you understand how easily someone can leave, you hesitate to come closer. When you know what can collapse, you hesitate to trust. When you realize how fragile the world is, you cannot walk as freely as before. Some people look at you and think you are too cautious, too cold, and too rational, but they do not know. You have paid the price for times you did not see clearly. And from those times, your mind learned one thing. If you must hurt again, at least know why. But the paradox is here. Seeing too clearly can become the invisible rope that keeps you still. At some point, in those days when life looks sharp as a blade, you suddenly realize something very hard to admit. No matter how good you are at analyzing, no matter how deeply you understand, logic cannot help you keep living if the heart has run out of hope. Humans are not designed to rely on reason alone. Reason helps you see clearly, but hope is what helps you move. When logic is too strong, you see things others do not. Every risk, every possibility of collapse, every weakness in a relationship, every early sign of a new pain. And when you see too many things that can go wrong, you hesitate to do anything at all. But if you look back at your life, you will realize this: the most beautiful things you ever had, the people you loved, the opportunities you held, the moments that made you feel alive, none of them came from analysis. They came from the times you dared to believe, even when you knew you could be wrong. Logic leads you to truth, but hope, even fragile, is what gives you a reason to wake up each day. The problem with depression is not that you think incorrectly. It is that you are left with only half of the mind. The sharp half, the clear half, the half that sees life as it is, but missing the other half. The half that trusts, the half that hopes, the half that allows itself to dream of something better. When the heart sinks too low, reason will do its job, keep you awake. But reason cannot light the road ahead. It cannot create motivation. It cannot create warmth. It cannot create a reason to take another step. This is why a person may understand everything and still not want to live. Not because they do not know how to fix things, but because they no longer see anything worth fixing. And the moment you realize this, that logic is correct, but not enough. That truth must be accompanied by a bit of belief. That clarity needs to be mixed with a bit of warmth, is the moment your mind begins to shift in another direction. Not back to where you were, but toward learning how to balance what you see with what you need to keep living. A person cannot live on raw truth alone. They need a small flame, even just a dim spark, to remind them that this world, fragile and imperfect as it is, still has things worth finding again. After a long time living in the cold light of reason, there will be a very quiet moment when you realize you cannot keep walking with only truth, no matter how clear it is. You have seen the essence of people, the essence of relationships, the essence of what once hurt you. You have understood the mechanisms that made you repeat old wounds. You have seen how things can collapse so fast that no one has time to prepare. But then you also begin to see something else. Not everything clear needs to be held onto. There are truths meant to be seen once for understanding, then set down. Not because they are wrong, but because carrying them leaves no room in your heart for anything else. No one grows up by holding onto broken pieces forever. Growth is learning to place the right piece in the right place, then letting the rest of life continue to be built. This is when you begin learning the hardest skill for anyone who has gone through depression. Not denying truth, but not letting truth swallow you. not lying to yourself, but not imprisoning yourself in analysis, not sugarcoating life, but not living as if life is only distortion. You still keep your clarity, your sharpness in seeing people, your alertness in evaluating situations, your deep understanding of yourself. But this time, you begin to mix it with a bit of warmth you once stopped believing in, a small hope, a faint light just enough to soften your eyes. A thought like, maybe not everything is as bad as I once saw. Maybe there is still something worth trying again. Maybe I don't need to be right. I just need to be at peace. You are not returning to your old self. You are no longer that person. Pain has changed you in irreversible ways, but now you begin to find a new version of yourself. Someone clear enough not to be fooled again, soft enough to still love, awake enough not to be blind, warm enough not to freeze. This is not a full recovery. It is the first balance, a fragile but precious balance, like a small sprout breaking through in winter. Tiny, silent, but a sure sign that the ground still holds life. And from that moment, everything begins to change, quietly, slowly, but steadily and deeply. There is a very small shift, almost unnoticeable, but it marks a turning point in the journey of anyone who has fallen into darkness. It is the moment you no longer fight to win, no longer try to prove you are right, no longer try to perfect yourself, no longer use reason as a weapon against life. Instead, you begin to accept things you once resisted until exhaustion, that some pain has no explanation, that some losses cannot be patched, that some people cannot be held onto, and that some things do not need to be fully understood in order to be let go. This acceptance is not surrender. It is a very quiet form of freedom, a freedom that comes from no longer being driven by fear or the need to control everything. You no longer run from pain as before. You no longer try to dissect it to the very end. You simply look at it as part of life, like a wound that is healed, still scarred, but no longer aching. The strange thing is this: when you stop trying to live by old standards, stop forcing yourself to be strong, to be okay, to be thorough, you begin to feel a lightness you have not found for so long. You no longer expect life to be easy, but you are no longer pessimistic when it is hard. You understand that life is not a puzzle to solve, but a journey to walk, where each step may be wrong, may be right, but at least it's real. And slowly, you realize the most important truth. The days you hurt are not proof that you are weak. They only show that you are human. A human who feels, who thinks, who falls, and who stands up again at their own pace. No one walks out of depression with a radiant smile. People walk out in a very quiet way, with a breath easier than yesterday, with a sleep less heavy than the night before, with a small decision no longer haunted by fear, with a warm feeling you thought you had lost forever. True freedom is not the absence of pain. It is when pain no longer controls you. True strength is not always standing tall. It is knowing you may fall and still choosing to move forward. And true healing is not becoming your old self. It is becoming a version light enough to keep living, clear enough not to repeat old wounds, and gentle enough to love yourself as something worth cherishing, even with a few scars. You may not notice this right away, but someday, on a very ordinary morning, you will step outside, look at life for a moment, and realize you have changed. Not loudly, not brightly, just peacefully, a kind of peace only souls that have walked through darkness can understand. And that's the content of this episode. If you feel a sense of resonance with these reflections, don't forget to follow the channel and stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. See you soon. Bye.